Are you ready to listen to my dad Joe and Uncle Justin talk about sports? Now on with the show.
The Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is brought to you by Mays Sandwich Shop, which have been serving the greater West Lawn area delicious food for over 70 years. You are listening to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show.
Boring.
A weekly podcast about sports since 2011.
Don't you ever get tired of being wrong all the time?
With a focus on football.
Sue, late in his career, is going to have his first Super Bowl title. Now, no wonder they want to call it Tampa Bay. Or Tampa Brady. One more snap, would you have guessed when this impossible season was trying to launch that you'd get it all in, you'd get to Tampa, and when the Super Bowl ended, the ball would be in the hands of Tom Brady. I don't know why we ever think it won't. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have a second Super Bowl title in franchise history.
And Tom Brady doesn't pass the torch quite yet to Mahomes, does he? Even though
you're looking at the greatest right there.
Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffoff. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. I'm one of your hosts, Joe Mays, and sitting next to me is my co-host, Justin Raffoff.
Yeah, it's good to be here. You know, kind of getting in the flow of things on this show a little bit. So, you know, just in time for the holidays to get here.
Last week was our preseason in week 13. And here we are. I guess technically preseason week 2, but then
we're just coming out of the bye.
Yeah, right. We had a long late bye like many teams, including both of our teams this week.
And now the bye's over.
Right, and we're ready to roll. We're ready to rock and roll. So, sorry, Kelly texted me something that we were talking about doing we have an annual light walk with the hills around the neighborhood, and I was thinking of adding a little bit of a flair to the walk this year. Courtesy of TikTok. Saw it on TikTok. Thought it might be fun and entertaining. So we'll see how fast Amazon delivers. But so another great weekend to talk football. Neither of us suffered losses this week. No Penn State, no Wilson, no Penn State, no Dolphins, no Eagles.
Quite an interesting week for Penn State, though. But,
so their defensive coordinator moved on a couple weeks ago to become the head coach at Virginia Tech.
Pretty much the only job he said he would leave for. Not necessarily directly, but it seemed like in conversations he's had with, essentially, it sounded like Audrey Snyder was kind of talking about this, about how he had always kind of referred to Blacksburg and Virginia Tech as a really special place. He was a grad assistant there, so like
there's
he
connections,
has ties to the area,
and I get it. I don't
100%. And Virginia Tech is one of those places where we don't necessarily think of it that way, but it was Frank Beamer, right? Frank Beamer for a long time, and then they went to like his assistant, and then went to someone else, but like it's all been like kind of in a line.
Fuente, right?
Yeah,
was
so
the
like
most recent one.
Yeah, so like it hasn't been.
They haven't gone outside the program,
right? And so even here, it's like Penn State. They always talked about the Penn State guys. Like this is, you could constitute this as a Virginia Tech guy in some sense if you wanted to, in that he did coach under Beamer, while he was there. So
and so Brent Pry goes to Virginia Tech. Whenever an assistant leaves for a promotion, like you can't really fault them for that. No. I always got upset when assistants left for the same job elsewhere because wasn't the guy who was here before Brent Pry in the DC role? Didn't he leave to go to Tennessee as the DC guy?
So he did.
Or am I confusing?
I can't remember what his name was.
I know I can't. It was because Pry has been in the role for 6 years now.
Right.
Most of Franklin's tenure.
So it was weird too because that guy sued Penn State. Remember, like he was suing for like wrongful
did Penn State
termination.
get rid of him? I thought he.
I think they did, but I think he mismanaged his contract, so he didn't get like money. I think Penn State moved on from him. Maybe I
Okay.
forget
I was
exactly
thinking
how
he
it
left,
went.
but
But he mismanaged it. But he said, "Oh, the program is like you know." I don't know. He made comments like, "Oh, it's a bad place," and like I wouldn't, I hostile work environment and all that stuff. But he let his son still play because his son was like a walk on and finished out at Penn State, and they're like,
Right.
"So it's so bad, but your son
son's
is still on the team," which,
Well,
it was kind of weird, and I think that eventually got tossed, that lawsuit.
Yeah.
But
well, I'm getting my Penn State assistant coaches confused, and some of them have been gone for a while now. I remember being so excited the first few years following, the first Franklin group.
Yeah.
And now I believe there's only one guy left. Terry Smith, I think, is the only
Right,
one from the
right.
original Franklin coaching
But
group.
like so many of those guys have gone on to be
What?
head
Charles
coaches.
Huff is the head coach at Marshall.
Right.
Moorhead is a head coach. I know he wasn't the original
Right,
guy,
right.
but there's
But Moorhead, you have Pry. Then this is going way back, but Gaddis is probably going to be getting a head coaching job soon. He won
he
the
was
Bryles
the
Award
assistant
this year.
coach of the year.
You have the guy who went to Old Dominion. So you've got guys all over the place. And again, that's, I don't know. It's another obstacle, but it's an obstacle because of success, you know. So, and yes, like he. Sorry.
It's just we had to get some Penn State talk in because, well, why wouldn't we? It's one of the many things that we love, and it's a good bowl game. We talked about it a little bit last week. It's a good bowl game. Going to the Outback Bowl. So going back to current Penn State stuff, the big thing was connecting it back to the original point of this was Penn State hired former Miami defensive coordinator and head coach Manny Diaz.
Right.
So he's had a long history of being a very, very good defensive coordinator, turning defenses around, but he's inheriting at Penn State a defense that was in probably most categories at least top 25, and in some cases I believe top 10, and they may even have finished in the top 3 to 5 in a few areas as well. Now obviously some of those players are moving on, but there's a scheme and a core there that Manny Diaz hopefully will really grasp and control, and hopefully that big name, swing for the fences hire, helps them not only solidify this recruiting class, which will sign in 3 days,
Right.
I think on Wednesday.
Yep.
Hopefully he can hit the ground running and really do some good things for recruiting for this next cycle, which has already started to form, but will really gather steam over the next 6 months or so.
Yeah, and I saw somebody, I thought, and this is pretty much the attitude I have. They're like, oh, well, he's going to want to be a head coach again. Well, okay, if he's successful and gets a head coaching offer, that would indicate that he was successful at Penn State, which is good for Penn State. It's, yes, you don't want to have to necessarily be going through that every single year, but look, if your guys are being offered head coaching jobs, like that's...
They must be performing well.
Right. It's a sign of success.
All right, so moving back into more, well, let's stay in college football. There's a game that we have become pretty fond of over the last handful of years or longer. Army-Navy was yesterday, and honestly, I'll be honest, and this is maybe one of the reasons that helped them win yesterday. I did not expect Navy to have any shot yesterday.
Right.
And I know, and we say this all the time, no matter what level, rivalry games are something different.
Yeah.
And this is, despite me still thinking it's underrated by way too many in the country, it's one of the greatest rivalries out there.
Oh, yeah.
This was the 122nd meeting. Like, how many other rivalries out there can say that?
This was interesting. I learned this a few weeks ago on a tour that I was on.
In Annapolis. For Navy.
That after the first, at some point, very early on in the series, they had to put a stop to it because officers between the different branches threatened to shoot each other. And so then they brought it back quickly because it was a good morale booster and things like that, and they just took pride in a lot of those things. And so it's been a great tradition. There's so much from the marching on of the cadets and midshipmen, like all that stuff is just so cool.
Yeah.
And then you see just these guys that, like, and they were talking about this a lot, and they do every year, but, like, these guys, what they do every day, and then they also play Division I football. Like, that's just unbelievable. Like, I can't really wrap my head around it. These guys, their day is regimented literally from before the sun comes up until well after the sun goes down every single day. And I know, and this isn't to take away from the commitment that it takes to play Division I football at any other school. Like
right.
it's a job. We've talked about that many times. It's like having a full-time job and being a full-time student. Like it's a lot. A lot of people don't have any idea of that commitment, but it's different at the service academies, and it's just so cool. And even though I'm rooting for Army, like, you're happy for the Navy guys, like, you're just happy, like, man, like, because that's their last game, and they won, and and so they get to win that game in that style. It was just really cool for them. I feel bad for the Army guys, but, like, that's all part of what makes it so great, is that everyone there cares so much. Everyone there cares so much, which is really cool.
We have been trying to go to this game for what feels like a long time now. I think it's only been, I mean, we've been talking about it and watching it and trading barbs over your Army support and my Navy support. It's all in fun, but we wanted to go. We were supposed to go, like, literally to the point where we're getting ready to buy tickets in the March of 2019. Or, 2020. Because I think one of my last texts to you before the pandemic is, like, I'm about to join the Navy, like, support group so that we can get tickets. Like, we're doing this, right?
Right.
I'm glad we didn't end up doing that, because that would have been, a pain to figure out.
That would have been, and it would have added to a lot of disappointment, too.
Right,
over the whole thing,
and then we knew we didn't want to go this year because we want to go when it's in Philadelphia.
Right,
And it was in the Meadowlands. What used to be the Meadowlands, I guess. It was in New Jersey.
Yes.
I know New Yorkers love that.
The other week, Austin was like, "Wait, so the New York Giants and New York
The
Jets
realization.
play in New Jersey?" I'm like,
The
yes.
glass shattering moment.
Yeah, he was like, just the look on his face. He was like, "Okay."
Like, that doesn't make any sense, but okay.
I'm like, buddy, that's why they're terrible.
This is why we don't like any of them. But yeah, so I think I'm trying to think. I don't want to paraphrase this, but it was really cool. Someone mentioned in the pregame that I think it was maybe, and it might not have been for this game. It might have been one of the previous Army-Navy games. And I think it was one of the chaplain's prayers or speech that he gave, was basically saying it's the only, I don't know if it was game or something, where the two teams playing on the field are basically playing to not kill each other, but beat up each other, but also would literally lay down their lives for everyone in the stadium.
Right.
Like that's literally what they're doing.
Yeah.
Not during the game, but with their life.
Brutal game.
So it's always incredible, and Justin and I always share each year with the promo videos are so cool that they put out, that CBS puts out. So if you didn't see this year's, definitely you want to check it out. It's very, very cool. They got 3 or 4 Army vets, Navy vets, but all that played in the game from a variety of generations, and they're showing old clips from the games. And I think the one last year was one of my favorites. It was very well done, but it's all a lot of fun. I really did not expect Navy to win this year. Navy was 3-8, Army was 8-3. But again, those rivalry games, you never know what's going to happen. And Army had won 4 of the last 5, so. Yeah, right. I'll take it.
When you look at some of the games Navy's played, though, Navy lost a close one to Houston, lost a close one to SMU,
Cincinnati.
lost a close one to Cincinnati. Yeah. Like,
Yeah, it's not like they didn't have it in them.
No,
It's just they didn't come out on top
Right.
often enough. But this is the one that,
Yeah.
if they're going to have a losing record and struggle at times, I think they're going to end with a W. And there was a Burks connection. Isaac Ruas from
Yeah.
Governor Mifflin, senior, carried a few times in the game yesterday. I think he had over 60
And
rushing
a
yards.
big first down.
A huge first down. And I know I believe it was his position coach posted. I was browsing through one of the Navy, I don't know, beat writers or someone that covers the team, and I saw they had retweeted a picture from, I think it was the running backs coach, offensive backs coach for Navy, and it was him with one running back and Isaac. And I retweeted that. I thought it was cool to see him
that's
giving him
awesome.
props to the two seniors in the backfield that to go out on top like that. And so phenomenal, awesome time.
They get a star on their Navy things. You add a star for every time you beat Army.
Every time you beat Army?
Yep. Things I learned.
Yeah. Keenan Reynolds got a few of those.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does.
I like anytime. Well, they mentioned. Well, honestly, unfortunately, one of the more somber
Keenan
moments.
Reynolds should have been a Heisman invitee. I'm not saying he should have won, but he should have been a Heisman invitee. I think it might have been his senior year, one of those years.
They were talking about the Navy SEAL that passed away recently, and his family was all there. It was in a training exercise in the last couple of weeks, and his family was there, his widow and his, I think, 5 children, they said. And they were talking, I believe, that he played at Navy from 2003 2006, and they were like, he never lost to Army, like, because that was the beginning of that huge streak that Navy went on. They had won 14
they had
in
the
a row.
one where the Navy player passed away last year.
Yeah, the
number
lineman 40.
68. And
Was it David?
Right,
David
and
40?
they selected someone and asked him if he'd wear 68 this year, and like they're talking to the family, and they said they had to do like a double take because like they go look out there and he's like about the same size, and he has got tattoos in the same spots, and like it threw them for a loop, and the coaches were talking about the same thing. Like it was wild, but
yeah. So, but yeah, definitely if you don't watch it, and most people watching and listening to us now or after the fact in the podcast, I know you do watch the game, but any of those out there that are joining us that don't regularly watch or listen, and you haven't seen Army Navy in the last few years, definitely take the opportunity to watch it next year. I believe it's December 10th, 2022. It will be back in Philadelphia. Justin and I may or may not be there. We'll see how things
we'll try and make it
work.
happen.
I was like, well, it's 123rd. Could we push it a few more years and go to the 125th? Well, then what if it's not in Philadelphia? And then we just keep delaying it, and I don't want to keep pushing it back.
Yeah, I'd rather try to go to multiple ones.
Yeah, who says we can't go to another one?
Right.
Well, what would have been cool, and I know it wouldn't have worked last year, but to go to West Point to watch it last
to
year.
Go to that one, that would have been
or
incredible.
if it ever ends up in Annapolis, go to the academy. I do want to, and maybe this is something we can do. I don't know if it'll be next year. And obviously, Jamie would want to do this. I want to go to West. Watch.
It would be cool.
Go to Mitchie and see.
I've been there for a game. It's cool. It's just such. It's a mix of partially like, oh, this is a really cool college football experience, and also it's cool, like I've never experienced anything like this. You know what I mean? Like there's parts where it's like, oh, this is really cool college football, and there's other parts where you're like, this is incredible on a whole different level.
And one last thing on Army Navy, and I was going to point this out, so I'm glad my uncle chipped in and said something. Once again, Nike and Under Armour knocked it out of the park.
Oh, yeah.
And whatever creative director is working on these dedications and uniforms, helmets for both Army and Navy. Now, I'm a Navy person. I'm partial to Navy over the years. I always like what Navy does. I loved Army's this year, too. I love, like, Navy's having, did you hear 3 hours to make one helmet?
Yes.
3 hours to make one helmet. And they got to make, 100 of them?
Yeah.
Have the F-18 on one side and have the symbol, the Fly Navy symbol on the other. Thought that was really cool. And if you look up close, you'd see like the metal paneling that they have with the bolts. Really cool. But I love the 9/11 tribute from the Army uniforms, and then what looked like, the camo pattern reminded me of like the Desert Storm pattern that became popular. And I know it was for a more recent, was it Dagger? Dagger squad.
So.
I forget what operation or a squad. Dagger something, I believe. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but I thought they both looked awesome. Like really, really well done. cool stuff. And that is one of my things every year right after Thanksgiving because I know it's coming up. What are they going to debut? Who are they going to honor? What's it going to look like? I know a few years ago, Army did that mountain group when they wore the all white. I think it snowed that year too. Yes. And obviously, I love the Blue Angels one that Navy did.
That was incredible.
That was amazing. Then when they did the Fleet one, where they had the different ships on this, I don't have the Blue Angels or the ship one or last year's in my mini helmet collection. I have a lot of the other ones, and actually, I don't know if you can see over Justin's shoulder there. That was probably my favorite up until the last few years. I just loved how they had the 3-tone colors with the anchor. The anchor is always cool to incorporate. I have a yellow mini one over there. But the ones this year were really, really well done. I think I'm going to end up, if I can find someone reasonably make the custom Army one with that pattern, I'd like to add that one. I have the standard gold that Army and Navy usually wear way over there. They're not exciting, but you got to have the traditional ones in the repertoire. But these one-offs that Army and Navy do every year are so, so cool. And I saw Paul Lucas on UniWatch said that Army and Navy basically originated the one-off uniforms. Like Oregon always had a bunch of combos, but they're all related to their regular colors, something about it was tied back.
Like the specialized
But like
one-offs.
To have, this is this game, this is for this game and for this reason. And he's very critical about a whole bunch. And he says he gives Army and Navy a pass because of they kind of were the ones that created it. And also, they're always so cool.
And
they're always
they
so
aren't
well
necessarily
done.
doing it for the sake of doing it.
No,
Like,
they're always honoring something that's
Right.
like, yeah, that's awesome.
Right,
That you
yeah.
point that out.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
like, and just the craftsmanship of the designs and especially the helmets are just awesome. So amazing job to whoever is the mastermind behind this. Are probably already working on next year's.
I think they work on these like 3 years out, like in terms of concepts, not necessarily like putting it together.
Right, yeah.
But I think concept-wise, they're almost like 3 years out on some of these. Yeah.
That would be a cool interview. Could you imagine talking to Army or Navy, like the people behind designing, coming up with the ideas and presenting the designs to whoever has to approve it?
Right.
Like if that's
I'm
with
sure
athletic
there
director
are plenty
or
of things that have to get approved. But also, I think I've seen like an interview before where they talk about like there's a fine line because like they have to get it approved, but they also keep it like top secret.
Right.
Like they don't like people don't know except the people who are like doing it until like they reveal it to the teams pretty much.
Yeah, so I don't have it down. Well, I have this. Last year's Navy poster came with my order when I bought the jacket and hat and shirt, which of course I was wearing yesterday, and Justin probably saw the jacket was sitting upstairs because I've been wearing it the last few days. But the marble or wave pattern
That was cool.
that they know it had a practical application in terms of it looked like water like that the ships would be on. But then it was also supposed to evoke the marble on the campus in Annapolis. But yeah, really cool stuff. So I was happy that they won this year because I was like, I'm buying this stuff, and now I'm like, they didn't win last year, and I was like, oh, bad luck. You know how Justin and I are. Well, if you listen to Bulldog Hour, you know how Justin and I are about superstitions, and I didn't want to be 0-2, and
Not
I was
superstitious. I'm just a little superstitious.
I was looking at oh man, the Navy's not that good this year, and I'm gonna be buying this stuff, and they're gonna be 0-2 with me wearing it. But nope, they pulled it out. So that's that. All right, now that we spent half an hour talking about Penn State and Army Navy, let's move on to the main topic this evening, which is NFL and Week 14. You already heard us say the Dolphins and Eagles were on a bye, but so are the Colts and the Patriots. So those 4 teams not playing this week. It's the last bye week, latest bye they could have. I did see something interesting. You probably saw this, maybe even shared it with me on social media from one of the sports companies that there's been a pattern of, I forget how many years back it goes. I want to say Week 9, who had a bye in Week 9 5 years ago won the Super Bowl. Who had a bye in Week 10, they won the Super Bowl. Well, we're up to Week 14 this year.
Oh man.
Something tells me it's not going to be the Dolphins or the Eagles. Just putting that out there.
Listen, wouldn't you sign up for a 1-in-4 chance right now?
Well, it's better than 1-in-32. So
Exactly.
Technically, the Texans were eliminated, so it's 1-in-31 at the moment.
And honestly, today the Jets and Jaguars were eliminated.
Oh, so
today.
okay, so it's 1-in-29.
Right.
So we're getting there.
So
we're
you're
getting there.
saying there's a chance.
But if you gave me a 1-in-4, yeah, sure, I would take that. But the other 2 teams are the Colts and the Patriots, and the Patriots right now, everyone is probably saying, well, of course, it's going to be New England again. I would rather have it be the Colts. I mean, if I was picking, I would pick the Dolphins, but at 6 and 7, even though they're on a 5-game winning streak, that would be a miraculous recovery.
On a side note, how would it feel for those AFC East teams and the NFL in general if the Patriots were to win the Super Bowl?
A year after Brady and the Bucs win it?
You've got to be kidding me.
Well, someone was like, they just took a year respite, and now they're moving on to a new dynasty.
I know. There was a conversation I was listening to this week, and people were like, oh, who has the most pressure to win, like, now? And there are people saying the Patriots, because Tom Brady won one last year. I'm like, no. If the Patriots prove that they're on a trajectory where they could win one again, they've got their window is still open. That's a scary thought that not many people outside of New England and some of our listeners, I'm sure, would love for that to happen. But most people are going to be like, oh man,
how about no?
Yeah, yeah. So we'll see. But yeah, if you're looking at that group, obviously it would be the Colts or Patriots that you'd have to give the best chances to. I think.
You'd have to.
I think Ross Tucker sent a tweet out today. He's like, you guys can check my math, but I'm pretty sure like 90-some% of teams have 6 or 7 wins.
98.7% of the teams in the NFL have 6 or 7 wins. And that's true. It's kind of what I said when I retweeted this on Twitter. Are there any – I should have said great. I said good. Are there any good teams in the NFL this year? And there are good teams in the NFL this year. Are there any great teams in the NFL this year?
No, not right now. Not right now.
Well,
and teams can finish strong, and teams can get healthy, and teams can get hot, but like it's just one of those things where right now, no, I wouldn't say there's a great team. I was telling you this before the show. There are a few hard teams, and the teams we mentioned as eliminated from the playoffs, those would be the ones I would count in that group. But outside of that, I would say there's a lot of teams that are below average to slightly above average.
Right.
And teams that can be really good. So, like, and again, you can't let this fool you because, like, I don't know that the Chiefs are as good as they have been at various times over the last few years. They look darn good today,
Yeah.
And that's a team where you're like, oh,
at home against a team that beat them at home last year.
And without one of their, like, starting defensive players, I think, who was out because of a family tragedy. Like, you just look at it, you're like, man, I wouldn't want to play them, and Tampa, Tampa's going to get in the playoffs, and I don't want to play them once you're in the playoffs. But, like, outside of that, like, I feel like, and this is the same conversation we had in July when we were talking about these teams, or in August, whenever we did it. The Cowboys have a ton of talent.
Are they going to put it all together?
I don't know. Like, and I don't think anybody knows.
They don't even know.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I've gotten 2 texts here. One is from my uncle, who says, "Are we saying Patriots Tampa Super Bowl?"
No, I'm not going off of my. Off my prediction.
I'm trying not to say that. Right. We just did our predictions. We're sticking to our predictions. Right. We have to. We got to be men of our word.
Right.
They're still on the table, so we're sticking with that, Uncle Rich. But related to that, I think related to that, and completely doesn't even know we're broadcasting right now. So. This has nothing to do with what I'm about to say. He's not trying to stick it to you, Uncle Rich. But Greg just texted me, I am crushing your uncle. Greg has no idea probably that we're live right now. But he also points out, and maybe this has something to do with it, Greg says about our fantasy league that the bottom 4 teams were all 5-8, and the top ones are all 9-4. Everyone's separated by just 4 games.
Right.
And for much of the year, a lot of the teams were sitting within a game or 2 of each other from top to bottom. Yeah. Is that anything to do with the way the NFL is this year? I don't know. There's a correlation there. It doesn't necessarily mean it's
No, it absolutely is causation. That's how that works.
I was just happy to make it into the top part that didn't have to play this week because, I thought that Cook wasn't going to play.
Right.
Like, I was thinking that, so I didn't.
Then he played really well.
well, but I would have, if I would have
Right.
known he was playing, I would have played him,
Right.
and I would have had a
No, that's-
monster week,
right.
if I would have played him. But we are on a bye, so it didn't matter. You were also on a bye,
Right. I had a bunch of guys that are on, or not on by, but haven't played yet or didn't play, and I just kind of left them in because it didn't matter. Resting them up, resting them
right?
up.
Yeah, they're getting a lot of rest for next week. When I play Nick, you play Amy. No, you
I don't know.
play Amy. No.
I don't know.
Well, you're the 3 seed, so you. Because Adam and Amy are the top 2. They play the 2 winners from the current play-in round. I forget who you play. Who we not mentioned. Anyway, let's start on Thursday night, which was an entertaining game.
I think I might play your Uncle Bob.
No, he's in the play-in round.
Never mind. I have no idea.
No, I'm trying to think of what team. I don't know. It'll come to me.
Wait, is your Uncle Bob's in the playing round?
Oh, maybe he's not.
No,
You're right. Because it was, yeah. Because it's Uncle Rich playing Greg, and my dad playing Jason.
So your dad.
So yeah, you're right. You play my Uncle Bob.
Uncle Rich could both be.
They might, they might be around.
Sidelines.
Trust me, they have a very strong opinions of who they don't want to see win the championship.
So it's one of those where I said cheering teams on. I think it'll definitely be more of like how I approach like when we're picking teams.
Who do I not want to win?
Who do I not want to win most? I almost sent you one today. It was like a post from like Flow Wrestling. It's like watch, don't miss anything from the Ohio State Pitt wrestling match. I was like, I don't want anybody.
I don't want to
win.
see anything. It's like I just saw Pitt girls volleyball made the Final Four for the first time. I was like, dislike. I don't know them personally, but I can't have that. Like Kenny Pickett being a Heisman finalist, no, just no.
Yeah.
Just know that I'm not okay with this.
I look at the NFL and I'm just like, I don't. There are some good teams, like you mentioned. There's some good teams. There's a lot of okay teams.
Yeah,
a lot.
And I'm
there are going to be some okay teams that make the playoffs just because they got hot or healthy at the right time.
The ratings, is this good or bad? And is it one of those things that it could be good in the short term but bad in the long term, or other way around? Is it bad? Is it not great now, but as more teams stay in it over the next few years in the long run, is it good? I don't know.
I think ratings-wise, I think things are going to start to look pretty good because you have the Patriots and just like a good following.
And everyone hates them.
Right.
So.
Right. You have people are polarized.
Right.
Polarizing is good for ratings.
Oh, yeah.
Tampa and Tom are good. The Cowboys are good, I think. But
we think.
By record, they are, right?
Right.
So they're around. So you have that. You have the Chiefs, so you have a star there, and they've been getting better.
Chad playing today.
He did.
Touchdowns.
Yeah, touchdown.
Yeah.
And then you also have some teams in LA that are like,
maybe, we'll see what.
Right.
One of them plays tomorrow.
Right.
So.
Right. But like that are relevant. So
right,
like,
they're certainly relevant.
You start to look, and you have Arizona, which I know people are like, it's Arizona, but people forget that like Phoenix is like the 5th largest city in the country. So like. There's a, and when you're winning, like people tend to, hop on. But like you just look at it, and I think they're set up. Oh, we missed one, Green Bay. Again,
we know how that is going to
historical
end.
one. So
we know
like
how that's gonna
people
end.
following everywhere. So like it's just one of those things where like man, like they've got to be thrilled about the potential for some of the teams that are going as we go here.
I won't call you out. The Steelers Vikings game, that was a very interesting Thursday night game to kick off this week. Thursday night games are very hit or miss. Steelers are coming off a big win over the Ravens. Vikings coming off a loss against the Lions. I was on Minnesota the whole way, even without Delvin Cook.
Yeah.
I don't trust the Steelers this year based on what we've seen through up to this point. It was 12 games. Even though I had them as a wild card, I believe, in my playoffs, watching them this year, they're okay, but they're not. I can't trust them. Right. And going to Minnesota, coming off a loss to Detroit, I know it's been a weird year that the away teams seem to get more of a bump than the home teams do. So that one was tough for me because I was like, well, if this was in Pittsburgh, I would be all over Minnesota. But it's at Minnesota, so that home away weirdness that we've had flipped over the last 3 years, where the home teams aren't getting any kind of an edge, and we've seen that line trickle down in betting. It used to be 3.5, is now 1 or 1.5 at best for the home team, and it could be even non-existent anymore. But I went with Minnesota in this, and at the beginning I was like, it looked like a genius. I mean, they still won, but Pittsburgh made it close.
Right. They're up 29-0.
Yeah.
And hung on to win.
Well, yeah, and the Steelers, you don't know what could have happened if Chase Claypool could just not be an idiot.
Gosh. So I saw somebody, it was a picture of Antonio Brown, doing something in the locker room, and then Juju dancing on the logo, and then Chase Claypool, celebrating with no timeouts and 30 seconds left. And somebody goes, I don't know who it is, but I already don't like the next Steelers wide receiver they draft.
Well, they're great at finding wide receivers in the draft, but
yes, they
man,
are.
they got an issue with their personalities because
and then to not just do it, but then to
sort of not defend it, but kind of
put the blame on everybody else. No, that was you. That was you doing it.
Oh, they knocked the ball out of hand. Yeah, because they were trying to get you back to the line to
You were
to
sitting
spike
there
the ball.
celebrating. You were kneeling down celebrating. There's no other explanation for what was going on.
Just make it about you. That's all.
Right.
That's all you care
Right.
about.
I thought Ryan Clark nailed it when he said that, he Chase Claypool is as underdeveloped emotionally
As
and,
he is
and
overdeveloped
mentally
physically. Yeah.
as he is overdeveloped physically.
Yeah.
And that can only come from it could. Anybody can say that. I could say that, but that means nothing.
Right. Well, he's a
But when
former
it comes
Steeler.
from a former Steeler who's won in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
You can say that. He
He's
can
not
say
allowed to play
because-
at Mile High.
Right, because what are you gonna say? If you're someone else, yeah, you were here, you did it. You know what I mean? But
No, I'm with you. I get it. I completely 100%. I'm with you all the way. So,
but the problem has been and Ben has taken his share of the blame this year. And I do think it's time for them and for him to just kind of move on to what's next in life.
They just have not planned for that future.
But it's not just him, though. They've made enough plays in games. In the first half against the Ravens, it wasn't Ben that was being terrible. They were dropping passes. They dropped a touchdown pass.
Well, and their defense isn't good.
No.
We've been saying this for the entire time we've been on the air. This is our 342nd episode. We've been saying it for every time we've talked about the Steelers. Their secondary is not good.
No.
In the 11 years, almost 11 years we've been doing this, their secondary is not good.
No.
Or they might have a guy, but they don't have enough guys. And when we started this show, it was closer. When Palomalo wasn't this big. Right. He wasn't who he was,
right.
In the first 5, 6 years,
right.
7 years of his career. They don't care about the secondary like the Eagles don't care about their linebackers.
Right.
And yeah, TJ Watt is a possible, defensive player of the year. If he could stay healthy, you probably have a better shot at it. But he's only one guy, and he's getting all his numbers rushing the passer. They can't stop the run. Right. I mean, Dalvin Cook rushed for over 200 yards.
Right.
And he's coming off an injury. Yeah. So they have their problems. The Steelers dropped to 6-6-1. The Vikings improved to 6-7. Both teams very much in the wild card playoff field. They each have a shot. They each have a shot where they're at right now. Dallas, another team that raced out to a huge lead and tried to hang on, but it was against a good team. Well, one of the good teams this year.
See, I think they're an okay team.
But that's what I mean. There's a whole bunch of these teams. Now Dallas should easily win this game, and they did.
They should have gone running
27-20, but they were up 24-0, or at one time were they 24-0?
I think it was 24-0, or yes,
close somewhere around there. And, Micah Parsons, again, making his case, solidifying his Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Defensive Player of the Year.
He could very well be Defensive Player of the Year if he continues
what
to
it's
have...
going to be the next few weeks are going to determine.
Right.
This.
So there's for them, there's 4 games left. If he has a sack in each one of those and has either an interception or another forced fumble, I think he wins both.
So here's the thing. Assuming he stays healthy, do you think there's any chance he doesn't have 4 more sacks this year? I shouldn't say any chance because, I mean, like 4 sacks. Like,
so this is his 13th game and he has 12. So he's close to a sack per game pace. So I think he gets 3 or 4 more. Yeah,
I do too.
I think it's that game-changing play. Can he get a pick or another forced fumble? Because I think he has 3 forced fumbles on the year.
Yeah.
And they returned it for a touchdown today.
Right.
Which is just huge. And the more
he almost had a pick.
The more media people talk about it, the more it's just that self-fulfilling prophecy coming up. So the more people that get engaged,
on something that where they vote, like people vote for this.
Well,
like,
and
you're the biggest defensive star, biggest rookie on
one of the biggest teams,
one of the most popular
country.
Teams in the country, right?
Yeah, so I think there's a very good chance that he could win both, which is just crazy. I mean, we knew about his potential back in 2014.
I keep saying this to you though, like,
as we watched him play against Wilson twice.
He and Owe both could have played for Penn State this year.
Yeah,
like, and I'm not saying they should have. They both made the right move by going to the NFL. Yeah. However, like, just imagine
Owe could be in the top 3 defensive player of the year.
We just said Penn State had a top 25 defense in the first half of our show.
And they could have had Parsons and Owe.
You could have had Parsons and Owe on that team. Imagine that. Oh, my gosh.
No, it just makes me sad.
Yeah, I know. I know.
So Cowboys improved to 9-4 with the 27-20 win over Washington, and the football team drops to 6-7, but again, still in play for the wild card. The Jaguars looked awful today against Tennessee, who's still beat up.
Coming apart at the seams in Jacksonville.
But Tennessee won 20-0, improves to 9-4. The Jaguars had 8 yards rushing today, 8 net yards rushing.
It's ridiculous.
Not looking good for Urban Meyer down in Jacksonville.
And his solution is to get rid of people who are telling on them and all their failures not to actually fix the problem. So good job with that.
Speaking of failure. The Seahawks went to Houston today to play the Texans. That game was actually close for way too long. The Seahawks are just not good either, but they were able to beat the Texans today, 33-13. Seattle moves to 5-8. Houston eliminated from the playoffs, down to 2-11. Another non-competitive game. Kansas City, Las Vegas. Justin already touched on this one a bit when we were talking about the good, great teams this year. Kansas City is rolling now, 48-9 over the Raiders, improved to 9-4. Las Vegas drops to 6-7. Kansas City getting it done both on offense and defense.
So many times they referenced during this game, they were like, "I bet they're warming up the buses, but not to drive around and celebrate." Like, because they took the victory lap last year when they won in Kansas City. They took a victory lap around the stadium. Yeah, it hasn't gone very well.
And they also did their pregame hype on the Chiefs logo at midfield. Why? Like, who comes up with this stuff? Is Bart Scott out there or something like that? Can you throw on a Raiders jersey? Speaking of hapless teams, let's continue that trend. The Jets dropped to 3-10 with a blowout loss to the Saints, 30-9. New Orleans gets their first win in a long time. I think they had lost 5 in a row. After starting 5-2, they were 5-7, but the win today gets them to 6-7.
You know how you knew this game was going to be bad? Because 2 teams that the Eagles beat
we're playing each other. But yeah,
and actually, the next one is too.
Yeah. So a battle in the NFC South between the Falcons and Panthers sees Atlanta get a win, improved to 6-7, 29-21 over the Panthers, who once again benched Cam Newton and brought him back in. That started out so well for the first 4, 5, 6 quarters. And has really trailed off
because now they've lost 11 straight games
with him
that he has
Cam
started.
at quarterback. Yeah, just rough. But Atlanta's sticking around, hanging out, 6-7.
Yeah,
possibility.
And again, to go back to Ross Tucker again, he's like, I know I'm going to get killed for this tweet, but he's like, based on the roster, he's like, is it Arthur Smith? He's like, should get some Coach of the Year thoughts. He's like, look at this roster, and they're without Ridley. to get to 6-7, he's like is insane. And when I thought about it, I'm like, he's not wrong.
I don't know that
like,
he's wrong.
I'm not sure that he is, but like he should be in the discussion.
So here's one that a little bit of a shocker, I think, because I don't think Cleveland's that good.
No, they're not.
Baltimore falls to the Browns 24-22
The Browns
in
did their
Cleveland.
best to give it up, though.
Right.
Oh my
They
gosh.
raced out to a big lead, like a few
And
other
I know
teams
you said
did.
you didn't see this.
But Baltimore was without Lamar Jackson for most of the game.
Right, but do you know how this like came
I
down?
don't.
Okay, so Baltimore was down 9.
Okay.
Okay, and they score. They were able to go down and score. They get the onside kick because the guy is, you know how like in the front, like you go to block, like you're not going. Well, the guy has his head turned and he's not seeing it bounces off his shoulder pad.
Oh my gosh.
And the Ravens recover, but then they get, 3 downs. They only get like 4 yards, so it's like 4th and 6 or whatever. They throw a 1-yard pass. Now the Browns brought everyone. Like they brought everyone.
Which means they should have been able to get more than a yard.
And they threw 1 yard at the guy who was covered by Denzel Ward, who just made the tackle. Like, and he played it well. Like they made the catch, but for a yard. 4th and 6, you throw for 1 yard.
See, this is one of those things.
Like I'd rather you throw it straight up in the air and just have it be a jump ball situation 10 yards down the field.
Huntley's the backup for a reason, but it's one of those things. Man, I wish I could see what Trace McSorley could have done.
Yeah.
In that spot.
Yeah, well, he's in Arizona now.
Yeah, but like
Right.
as like the 4th quarterback. Out
Right,
there.
yeah, it was
it's
weird.
super weird. I mean, if he ends up getting a ring because of it, I'm all for it. Especially because it means he's not getting in with the Ravens. Because like I can't have that either. Sorry, Cheryl. But this is the first time that Baltimore's lost back-to-back division games or 2 straight division games since the end of the 2016 season. So,
She texted me, let's move on. Next game.
Baltimore still has a game lead over Cleveland, and because of what happened to the Bengals,
Who found a way to
lose too.
But also, like, they should have lost, and then they find themselves winning, and then they find a way to
lose anyways. You mentioned the Chargers, the Los Angeles teams putting up a fight and maybe being relevant. The Chargers were able to dispatch the Giants.
I feel like when I look at the Chargers, like, I wouldn't have thought that they were 8-5. Like I would have pegged them for one of the teams that's at 6-7.
Well,
but they're
there are
8-5.
There are times to me that they're way better. That they're a 10-3 team, and there's times that I look at them and they're 4-9 team.
You watch, but still, man, I watched them. Like, Derwin James is just so much fun to watch. Like he's just like a football player. They can line him up anywhere. Like it's just crazy.
Right.
But
so the Chargers improved to 8-5 with a 37-21 win over the Giants, and the Giants are just, I don't know. They don't got it. Is Joe Judge going to be back there?
They say he's supposed to be back for next year.
Well, because Gettleman's retiring, but there's going to be a new GM. That's a mess.
Yeah.
Lions couldn't keep the mojo going after last week's walk-off win against the Vikings.
Game was close early. Broncos
were able to run all over them eventually. Lots of rushing touchdowns in this one. Denver improves to a surprising 7-6.
Yeah.
38-10 victory in Denver. It's an interesting one. I know they lost last week. They couldn't keep it going in Kansas City, and you got to beat teams like that if you want to be considered a Super Bowl contender. But they're winning the games that they should.
Right in the mix.
Yep, 7-6. Denver likes to play the NFC, not so much the AFC, according to this stat. 4-1 against the NFC, but just 3-5 against the AFC.
You know who that one is in the NFC?
No.
The Eagles.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because we talked about it. We talked about it. Andrew had a good time at that game.
Andrew had a great time at that game.
Garrett, not so much.
Yeah.
He wasn't loving that one. So I just alluded to this. 49ers, Bengals. Both teams sitting at 7-6 after San Francisco's win in overtime. Brandon Ayuk, my boy, drafted him in fantasy, let him go for a few weeks. He bounced around to a few teams.
You know who didn't draft him? The Eagles.
He catches the game-winning 12-yard touchdown in OT to give the Niners the win over the Bengals in Cincinnati. So that's a tough one.
You know what's interesting there for the Niners is that a couple of the guys who they needed to step up, Ayuk and who's the
Debo?
Yeah, Debo Samuel are like playing to their potential, and that's what Niners fans would like to see. Like that's what they need is guys like that stepping up.
So those late games were very entertaining. Lots of
and then
late
the Buccaneers
finishes.
were beating the doors off the Bills.
Yeah.
And the Bills came all the way
And
back.
this is one that I wanted to have you talk about because I did not see any of this one.
So,
I know Tampa Bay was winning pretty big.
They were winning big and easy. It might have been like 24-3 at halftime or something like that. And the Bills come all the way back, have a shot at the end of regulation. They had the ball at like the 12-yard line, first down. I don't know that they had any timeouts left. But it shouldn't matter from there. But they have to kick the field goal to tie it. So it goes to overtime. Bills get it, stalls out. They punt it. Monster punt goes out at like the 5-yard line.
And then Tom Brady.
The Bucks go. They thought they had him stopped on like a third down, between like the 20 and 30. But they gave it to him, and I think he got it. Like, it's hard to tell. They reviewed it and they gave it to him. Like, and I think it was the right call. It's kind of like in a pile right in the middle of the field. It's hard to tell. But then a few plays later, Brady, for his 700th career touchdown, completes a 60-yard touchdown pass.
Nope, don't like that.
That was the end of that.
Well,
my mom said we can just move on from that one too.
So Tampa Bay gets the win, improves to 10-3, 33-27 over the Bills, who, flash back to early October, and after the first 4 or 5 weeks, everyone thought Buffalo was the best team in the league. They're going to win the AFC. They're now sitting at 7-6.
And
lost to New England, lost to Tampa Bay.
And what are the Patriots at? 9-4.
9-4. They've got a 2-game lead
and
with the current tiebreaker.
And the Bills play them yet, but
New England.
At New England, right?
There's a chance the Bills don't even make the playoffs.
Right.
Which is crazy.
Yes.
Which is crazy.
Yes.
I'm going to definitely have some saved receipts from earlier conversations and text messages.
Can you imagine if the Dolphins and Eagles made it?
See, the problem with that to work out, I mean, it's a lot easier for the Eagles because they're not actually competing with them to make the playoffs.
Right.
Whereas the Dolphins are, and the Dolphins lost to the Bills twice. So even if they finish with the same record.
Yeah, but the Dolphins are going to beat the Patriots in Week 17.
Well, that's a shoe-in.
It's in Miami.
It's in Miami. It has to happen. Yeah. Whew. We talked about the teams on the bye: Colts, Patriots, Dolphins, Eagles. Patriots 9-4, Colts 7-6. Both the Dolphins and Eagles sit at 6-7. Indianapolis and the Patriots play this coming week, next week.
Yeah, Patriots play the Colts, and then the Patriots play. So the Patriots play the Colts. Patriots play the Bills yet. The Patriots play the Dolphins yet. Maybe play the
Jets. Maybe week 18.
I feel like they played the Jets twice, but I don't know.
think they did.
I don't know, but.
Yeah, because I feel like my uncle said that he would be home and had the opportunity to go to that game, but it's really cold and he doesn't want to go. I think that was the one because I think it was Jets because I thought Patriots Dolphins was the last game of the season and he said that was week 17 but not week 18.
Yeah,
I think he said it was Patriots Jets. Of course, I could be completely wrong and not remembering any of that conversation properly. But the Eagles have Washington next week. So if the Eagles want to make the playoffs, beating a team that's in front of them,
the Eagles
probably the way to
go 3-1 to give themselves a shot.
With that one loss to Dallas.
That's honestly what I was thinking. The only way that might not happen is if that last game, I think they played Dallas the last game of the season, I think.
Okay.
If that game doesn't matter to Dallas, you know what I mean?
Jaguars. He says they play the Jaguars last week. I was thinking it was the Jets. That was close. Two terrible teams that start with a J.
Right, yeah. But, but that could easily be one of those where it might not matter to the Cowboys, but, do they play because they don't want to let a division, it becomes weird, I'm
trying to see.
But I've told you this. Watch the Eagles make it as the last wild card. Losing to the Cowboys, but then
January 9th. So is that week 18?
Yeah, that has to be week 18.
Yep, in Philly,
and lose that game, but then play them the next week in Dallas and beat them in the playoffs. Can you imagine?
Can you?
Yes, I can.
Time to wake up.
Yeah, let me rephrase that. Can you imagine how insufferable I would be?
Well, I mean, I'm just here as a third party.
But
Who could
through
you be talking about?
I can't. I'm sure I could think of someone.
So currently going on right now at Lambeau, Green Bay's hosting Chicago. The Packers are up 14-10.
The biggest surprise here is the Bears have scored 10 points. So.
And the Packers have only scored one offensive touchdown.
Oh, okay.
Because I believe former Eagle, is that Rasul Douglas?
Yeah.
Is he the Packers in on the
having
Packers?
like a Pro Bowl
55-yard
year.
pick six.
Yep. Yeah.
So that's what put Green Bay up ahead of Chicago with 5 minutes to play before halftime. So big NFC North battle on NBC on Sunday Night Football. So check that out if you're not watching already, and see what happens. I fully expect the Packers to win this game, but they're gonna choke in the NFC divisional or conference championship round because that's just what they do. So we'll see what happens.
Maybe they'll
there.
kick the field goal and win it.
Maybe. I think they could use it. They could use that. And then the Monday night game is Rams at Cardinals, which is very, very interesting.
Yeah, and a really important game.
Rams are 8-4. Cardinals are 8-2. If they want to claw their way back into the division race, they need to win this game.
Rams can't win the division if they lose this game, because they would lose the tiebreaker, and they'd be 3 games behind. They'd essentially be 4 games behind with 4 games left, and they'd be 4 games behind with 4 games to play, essentially. So, because of the tiebreaker.
So if the Cardinals would win this game but lose their next 4 to finish 11-6, I guess the Rams could finish 12-5 and jump them that way. That's the only way.
Yeah, it could happen.
It could happen.
It's
just
incredibly
the odds
unlikely
of it happening.
because the Cardinals have already won a 2 out of 3 stretch with Colt McCoy as the quarterback.
Right.
So even if they were to not have Kyler available for some of those, you'd think they'd probably win at least a couple of them. So.
The current trends on their side, though, the Rams have won 8 of their last 9 against the Cardinals.
And the Cardinals have to play the Cowboys yet, so that's a big game in a couple weeks.
All good games, fun, interesting. I know the NFL has been moving around some of those late season games to get the primetime matchups or the later window.
I'm all for that.
I honestly like the 1:00 games better. I feel like the 4:00 games get lost to me.
So here's the problem: they only have a couple 4:00 games. I wish they'd divide it more equally. Honestly,
well, they usually have 4 late window games
or 3 sometimes.
Sometimes in the bye, when the byes are active, you get 3. Yeah, I wish there was. We got Thursday, Sunday, Monday. So if all the teams
they should also
playing,
go to Saturday this week.
Well, yes, this coming week. They start Saturday.
Okay.
Yes,
because I was going to say college football. There'll be bowl
other than
games
a few
eventually,
minor bowls and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, for the next 2 or 3 weeks at least, there's a few games on Saturday. But Rams Cardinals is a marquee Monday night game with the way these teams are playing. Should be fun. I wish it wasn't starting at 8:15.
Oh, anymore. Any
know.
more than night games, I'm like, no thanks.
I can't tell you the last time I watched more than the first quarter of a Sunday or Monday or Thursday night game.
So I've done it, but the problem is, if it's a game I care about, if I keep watching it, then I'm gonna want to keep watching it. Next thing you know, it's 11 o'clock.
Right.
And then if it's a game I actually care about, which is why I would stay up, then I'm either excited because the team I wanted to win won and can't sleep, or I'm furious and can't sleep even longer.
Yeah. So
I know that's a me problem, but I also am old enough to know that, and so what do? I turn it off at halftime.
I'm old enough to know better,
Right.
so I know that I got to get up at 5:30. I'm not about to stay up late watching the football game. Yeah, way too old.
Well, my buddy on the West Coast, man, that game starts at 5:15.
I know.
And the games come on at 10 in the morning. 10 in the morning, and the game's on at 5:15.
I like when we get to the playoffs. I mean, I'd rather take the 18-week regular
That's another
season.
reason why you want to move to Portland.
Oh yeah, that's at the top of my list. It's the top of A list, not a place to move list.
The A list.
There's plenty of words that start with A. When the playoffs come, I don't like when the games are 4 and 8. I miss that 1 o'clock game.
No, I agree.
Because I know, I don't know if I'll
year,
get to watch all of the 4, and I'm not watching all of the 8.
Last year, they had that super Saturday.
Well, they're doing that
thing.
again this year.
But I thought
they
they
move
were,
a game to Monday, didn't they?
I thought they moved it to Monday or something like
so
that.
So now it's not 3 on Saturday? See, I'd rather do 3 Saturday, 2 Sunday, 1 Monday. That's
Yeah.
not
See, I'd
2,
rather
3,
just
1.
3-3.
Yeah, well, yeah, because if they're starting so late on Monday, I'm not going to get to watch it anyways.
Right.
Why is the NFL not thinking of us?
All right. If they put the Eagles beating Dallas on,
We say that
I wouldn't sleep for a
jest.
week.
But honestly, how many people are like us that were like, I'm not staying to watch that game?
No, here's the thing. If we're doing it, there's a lot of people who aren't doing it. But I know, here's the other thing. I know people that just do it. They just stay up. And
I know.
It doesn't bother them. But
oh, I can't. Nope.
What part of me is like, it doesn't matter. I'm going to be tired when my 8 alarms go off. No matter what.
Oh, God, you're one of those. I forgot. Oh, so many things to not like about you.
Yet here I am.
How? How has this been almost 11 years?
Oh, my gosh.
I really don't understand why they bow to the West Coast. Like, who cares? Half of them don't care anyways.
Right.
Like, you hear it all the time. Yeah, you hear East Coast bias. You know why there's an East Coast bias? Because the West Coast
That's
doesn't
where everybody
give
watches.
They don't give a crap.
Right.
Like, we hear it about all the time. How are these 2 LA teams going to survive? Those stadiums aren't full, and those teams are good.
Right.
Like, it's mind-boggling that they continue to make this. So move it an hour earlier. I don't care. Let them whine and complain that the games start at 4:15 local time. It starts at 7:30 out here. Then
do it for a year, and if it's that bad for your ratings, okay, but you've got the numbers then.
How could it be that bad? Like,
It wouldn't be.
It
That's
wouldn't-
the problem.
yeah.
It wouldn't be.
ridiculous. Well, it's even worse for and maybe this is just no. I think World Series, NBA,
Yeah.
hockey. Like,
Some of those NBA games don't start
It's
till like
9
8
o'clock.
Right, 9 o'clock.
I was like, what are you
Well,
doing?
do
I
you
was
remember
like,
when Monday Night Football used to start at 9 o'clock?
oh, well, it had been for years 8, right? And then they
Well,
moved
it
it
was-
to like
it was 9.
8:30, and then they moved it to 9, and people were like, "What are you doing?"
Right. I remember that, and I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Prime time is 8. That is when it should start. Sunday night and Monday night should start at 8,
Like,
not
kickoff at 8.
8:15, 8:30.
Right, kickoff at
8:20 or whatever it is. They should start at 8. Get off my
Old men
lawn.
yell at-
Get out of here. Honestly, everyone that's listening to us, at least the ones that are listening live, our parents
are
and
probably like,
aunts and uncles. They're
it's
probably like,
9:30, old people. Go.
yes, it's time for you to go to bed. But also, we agree. Like, stop starting primetime television at 9 o'clock. It's the same thing like when the Olympics are on. Like, saving over the summer. Like, they make the athletes get up at, like, 6 a.m.
Right.
so that we can watch them here at 10 p.m.
Right.
Oh, gosh. Anything else to complain about before we go? Anything else to point out?
You
Anything
know
else
what
to say?
grinds my gears?
About
we don't want to get on that list.
I was
We'd
gonna
be here
just bring it
forever.
full circle and say, how about Army losing to Navy yesterday?
I thought you were gonna bring up Eagles drafting wide receivers.
Oh, we could go there too. No, we don't have time for that.
No, gosh.
That would be an hour rant in and of itself. So, all right. Well, it was good to be back for another week talking NFL football, Army Navy, a little Penn State, and we'll be back next Sunday for more of the same. I will not. My uncle just said he watches all the games, but then again, I'm retired. You beat us there, touche. You definitely have us beat.
Fair
you have us
enough,
beat
fair
there.
enough.
So he's gonna have to be our late game correspondent.
There we go. There we go.
Oh yes, good stuff. We'll be back talking the same thing next Sunday. This is celebration weekend. We're broadcasting on my dad's birthday.
There we go.
So we'll have to put together something special. All he'll care about is if Dallas win. I don't even know when and who they play next week.
Yeah, because his fantasy game probably won't matter next
Ooh,
week. So.
Shots fired. Not making it to the next round. So
I say that. You watch. He could for all I know. So we'll have to see.
well, we will have to see. So Quinn Ewers is going to Texas. That
Okay.
entire situation is just super weird.
Right.
We could also talk for a long time about NIL and the transfer portal and
Yeah.
college football is something.
Well, yeah. Mike Leach today ripping players sitting out of bowl games, and somebody goes, "Oh, but or because like they're not thinking about the team," and somebody's like, do coaches leaving for other jobs next? Like,
Well, but the thing is, I completely agree with him. I
do.
also agree with
right.
You don't.
I agree, but like, it's one of those things that bothers me. But like, I understand because I'm like, like, I don't know. It's just, I know it's not the same, but like, I didn't blame Parsons when he sat out last year. I know it's not the same because that was a weird scenario. And they had canceled the season.
Well, right, that's what I mean. There was
two
big things going on there that made it a huge difference, and that's why I don't really count last year.
No, you're right.
As part of it, but
it's one of those where I would have a hard time doing that, but like I understand why kids do if there's millions of dollars on the line, but
it just doesn't sit well with me. You're not like. But I mean, that's where college has gone. You're not
absolutely.
You're not, and that's what we talk about it on the Bulldog Hour all the time. The purest form of football is high school football,
and it's part of what makes the Army-Navy game so great. To bring this full circle back to because like those guys were going knowing that.
Could you imagine any of them ever opting out of playing in a bowl game?
Or opting out of the Army-Navy game because it could be my last game, and I want to be ready for the draft come April.
Not a chance.
Yeah, that's not happening.
Not happening.
Right. So like, and I get it's a different mindset, but that's what we're talking about. It's a different mindset, and I don't blame the guys that do it. Like, I understand it. It makes financial sense. It's just one of those things that like I would probably choose the other thing, but I haven't been in that situation that I had to decide. In case there was any confusion on that. So.
There you have it.
Back when I had to choose whether I was playing in a bowl game or not.
Whether I was going to forego millions of dollars. All right, but I think that's it. Hope everyone enjoys the upcoming week. We'll be back in 1 week's time to do more of the same. So if you enjoyed it, we hope you return. I'm going to let Justin do his sign-off first because I get to sign off second. So
I can't stand you. At first, I was like, I don't know where he's going with this, and then I got there. I should have just played it off and made you explain it to me, but
I knew you'd get there eventually.
Yeah, that's the problem.
All right, thanks for listening, everyone. We'll be back in 1 week.
That's a wrap on this episode of the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show, brought to you by Mays Sandwich Shop. Woo-hoo! You can watch each weekly episode live on Facebook, Periscope, or YouTube. Be sure to like, follow, or subscribe to the show on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play. You can also rate and review us on many of these platforms as well. We'd love to hear from you. Send your emails to the Mays Sandwich Shop inbox at joemaysandjraff@gmail.com. The Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is a part of the JMNJR Radio Network, home to other productions such as the Bulldog Hour, Tangents with Friends, and Nat Chats with Dad. Until next time.